button on Zoom. The past few meetings, past few days, of course, Zoom is booming, and they can't process the recording, so I can't even get these recordings we've been having lately out on podcasts because there's just too much Zoom action. It's just like I keep checking to see if the recordings have been processed because they go through like a 2 or 3 hour process. It's been 2 or 3 days and they haven't been processed. So anyway, if you're looking for a podcast or a replay of anything on YouTube, we haven't gotten them out yet. I'm trying a new technique today where I actually, instead of recording into the cloud, if this makes any sense to you, I'm recording directly to my computer. And so then I can take that replay that's on my computer and put it back up for podcasts or whatever. So that's another way of doing it. And hopefully we'll see if it works or not. Today I wanted to talk about routines, and we talked fairly extensively yesterday about routines. Monica brought it up in a meeting a few days ago that people are freaking out because their routines are being challenged. I can't do what I normally do. Oh, Rebecca, that's a cool cat. So, and our routines are being challenged, and on a global scale, not just here in the United States, but things that we're used to doing are being very, very, very confined. A lot of us, if you're not retired, you're used to going out and going to work and getting away from your family, at least for a few hours. And now families are being confined and routines are being shut down and gathering places, you can't go to them anymore. And so there's this real challenge to the way we see ourselves, the routines we think we just normally do because that's what we have to do. But what the Course, I think, is trying to get us to look at, and we'll look at some references that kind of point this out, is our routines are really special love relationships where we think just under the surface, if not consciously, I need to do this so I continue to feel somewhat okay. Maybe I won't be saved. Maybe I won't go to heaven, but this is what I need to do in order to get through a day and at least feel somewhat safe and somewhat secure. And those routines are all based on that. They just look like we're doing normal stuff. But, from a Course's point of view, if I'm invested in believing that routine, that thing I do all the time is somehow going to sustain me, keep me alive, keep the boogeyman away, it's a special love relationship. Let's call it what it is. Like Fauci said the other day, let's call this what it is. It's a special love relationship where I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. We just did not expect or see on a global level that everybody's shoe was going to drop at once. That's what happened. Go ahead, Dave. You got something?
I was just going to say that it becomes part of our identity, our jobs, and at least for me it was.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And so, we've been looking at the wheel of misfortune lately. Here's our, this is basically the world with little old me right in the middle, the stick figure me. And I've got routines or special relationships with everything on this wheel of misfortune. If you have speaker view and you want to see this a little bit bigger and clear, you click on speaker view and you'll be able to see it better. But for example, Tim the stick figure, Dave the stick figure, Rebecca the stick figure, we've got relationships with our dwelling place, with our politics. Certainly we'll have crazy relationships with time, with our money. We even have special love relationships with the Course book. And each one of these things, whether it's weather, dealing with death or not dealing with it, entertainment for sure, sports, germs. We definitely got a relationship going with a germ right now, a specific germ. Christmas, other people, transportation, etc. Like Dave was saying, all these special love relationships and all our routines in terms of the way we deal with each of these things is a way we define ourselves. This defines our selfhood. And you know, I mean, that's normal. That's why we came here, was to do that. According to the Course, we came here to define a self separate from our Creator, and we do a good job by sustaining all these routines, all these relationships, with me as the central figure, of course, in all of them. It's my drama, my story. So if you want to look at page 66 in the text, this is one of those really powerful, hard-hitting, for me anyway, paragraphs I really like. It's paragraph 6 that pretty much get incorporated into most presentations that I consider doing. And it's there's a couple of things here that are really important. The most important thing is the what for question. Jesus says what we don't ask of everything all the time, and what we should ask is, what is this for? Is this for something from the ego's point of view, or something from the Holy Spirit's point of view? Meaning, is this about separation and blame, or is this about forgiveness and letting go of blame? Those are always the two what fors from Jesus's point of view. Of course, in the world, we have lots of what fors. We got why we deal with entertainment the way we deal with it, why we deal with weather the way we deal with it. I mean, there seems to be lots of goals, purposes for the way we have these routines, these relationships with all kinds of things. And so we're just kind of stepping back from that, certainly stepping back from this identity. And the big what for in all these routines, and the big setup that we don't want to admit, is with each one of these special relationships, with each one of these routines, if I'm in ego mode, what I'm doing is I'm drawing a line in the sand, and I'm daring somebody or something to cross it. Coronavirus, president, something. My way of dealing with things from the Course's point of view, from an ego point of view, and I don't admit that's what these routines are for. I'm waiting for somebody to mess with my routine. That's what they're for from an ego's point of view. From the Holy Spirit's point of view, all these routines are not to take it so seriously and realize I'm already okay and you're already okay the way Jesus sees you. That's what all that stuff's for from the Holy Spirit's point of view. Ken Wapnick used to, he was a great teacher. He was always preparing for something, a presentation, writing a book. He said his classroom, his routine was not preparing for the presentation. His routine was not writing the book. His routine was to deal with everybody who was coming into the office interrupting his routine. That was his classroom. And to be okay with that and realize whoever was interrupting him was okay. Jesus still loved them. And he was still okay. Jesus loved him, whether the routine was interrupted or not. That's what routines are for. They're not to save me. They're either so if somebody crosses the line, I can point the finger at somebody, or every time my routine gets disrupted, it becomes a classroom where I can go, oh, maybe I'm not upset for the reason I think. Maybe it's not because somebody crossed the line in the sand that I put there. Heaven forbid, I admit I put it there for a reason. Paragraph 6, page 66 in the text. The ego thinks it is an advantage not to commit itself to anything that is eternal. Like forgiveness, like stepping outside of our routines and seeing maybe I'm not the self I think I am. And maybe you're not to blame for robbing me of my peace. Because the eternal must come from God. Eternalness is the one function the ego has tried to develop, but has systematically failed to achieve. Man, how frustrating is that? Poor little ego, I'm starting to feel sorry for it. The ego compromises with the issue of the eternal, just as it does with all issues touching on the real question in any way. The real question is, who am I? What am I? Am I still one son of God, or did I really separate? And I'm off and running and blaming it on you. By becoming involved with, I love this phrase, it's the only time Jesus uses it, tangential issues. Every routine I'm in is a tangential issue. That's what they're for. And then, God forbid, I admit that's what they're for. I get involved with these tangential issues, thinking somehow this routine is going to save me when it has nothing to do with peace at all. It's such a huge self setup against ourselves to realize what is this for? You know, and he's definitely not telling us don't have relationships with all this stuff. Don't have a routine in dealing with your day. What he's saying is just try not to believe that when somebody messes with your routine, that's what's robbing you of your peace. I'm never upset for the reason I think. Well, we think we're upset all the time because our routines got messed up with, especially lately. Man, they're being messed up with like crazy. So by becoming involved with tangential issues, the ego hopes to hide the real question, who the hell am I? And keep it out of our mind. The ego's characteristic busyness, another word for routines, with non-essentials. The non-essentials always being, I believe that this is somehow going to make me feel better, this routine, this relationship with whatever it is I'm dealing with, another person, another thing, another situation. The ego's characteristic busyness with these non-essentials is for precisely that purpose, to keep the real purpose out of my mind, to keep what each of these situations really are about out of my mind. Preoccupations with problems, preoccupations with routines, set up to be incapable of solution. Our favorite ego devices for impeding learning progress. In all these, I mean, he's relentless in this paragraph, in all these diversionary tactics, every routine we got that we think is important. The one question that is never asked by those who pursue them is, what the hell am I doing this for, really? He took those words out. He just put in what for. This is the question that you must learn to ask in connection with everything, in connection with every routine we have that's being challenged. Challenged in the sense that something's wrong with this picture because I'm not feeling so great because my routine somehow got messed with. What is the purpose? Whatever it is, it will direct your efforts automatically. Meaning, if I think my salvation is involved in one of these routines and it got trashed, then, well, I'm going to go try to, there's a couple of things I might do. I might try to stop the virus as much as I can from invading my space. But I'm going to, what people do in national disasters, when they're collectively, their sense of self gets violated and their routines are upset. Whether it's a world war, you know, it's the pandemic flu of the 1918 or the current thing we're having, what we will do if we stay in ego mode is we will reinvent ourselves. We'll reinvent the wheel. In this case, it'll be we will reinvent the wheel of misfortune. We'll reinvent routines. We'll reinvent habits. We'll reinvent how much TV we watch or don't watch. Where can I take a walk if I can take a walk before we all get shut down? We can't even do that. But we'll reinvent all kinds of things because we're reinventing our selfhood. And we'll reinvent all kinds of new habits. And people do that in really strange places. I mean, they do it in concentration camps. They certainly do it in prison. Go to any place where people's routines have been locked down for any reason and they reinvent themselves. Well, they have to. It's practical. I mean, to stay alive, you got to sort of, you reinvent new relationships. You reinvent what you're eating, what you're not eating, what you want, what you can get away with, what you can't get away with. But if we're doing that with ego, it'll just be the same old, same old. But we do it, and we have to do that. If I'm in ego mode, I have to reinvent a whole new personhood, and I will, with new relationships with all these routines that are being disrupted. That's just normal, quote unquote, natural, because that's what egos do. And then pretend what the real reason behind those is, that we're drawing a line in the sand with each of those. Don't ever admit that out loud. don't ever admit that's what's going on. So line 11, when you make a decision of purpose, real purpose, meaning I look at the ego's purpose and I go, do I really want to be drawing lines in the sand with this? Is there another way of doing this? So when you make a decision of purpose, then you have made a decision about your future effort, a decision that will remain in effect unless you change your mind. I remember Jeff Siebert at the Foundation for A Course in Miracles, the way he would put it was, I'd be all right, I'd be in my right mind, and then suddenly I'd be back to me. I'd go back to my wrong mind, and I just kind of slipped in there. I don't even know how it happened, but I was back to being normal again. And so, but there's a conscious choice to, if we're in our right mind and if we're connected with Jesus, it has to be a conscious choice for a half a second to go back to the ego, because hanging out with Jesus is pretty scary, because it's robbing me of any kind of selfhood. This is what Jesus, and since that's not a real fun thing anyway, it's not like he's really robbing us of it. He's just letting it go back into the nothingness from which it came. But that's a challenging thing, especially if I'm hanging on to my selfhood in some subtle way I don't want to admit that I'm doing. I'm going to go back to my wrong mind. And then within an instant, I'm going to forget I did that I chose to do that. That's what that lesson about 136 is about. Read that one. That's a trip about how quickly we choose to go back to the wrong mind, and then how quickly we forget it and blame it on something or somebody else. In lesson 136, it's specifically about sickness, physical sickness, but it could be anything. I'll blame somebody or somebody, anything. So anyway, what I wanted to do before I actually got to a meditation, because I wanted to get us kind of riled up a little bit. And I was watching John Oliver last night, and John Oliver's show is basically John Oliver whining about stuff. I mean, but he's really good at it, which is why he gets Emmys for whining about stuff for a half hour. He's funny, he's thoughtful, he's insightful, but he's a trip. Well, anyway, here he is in his non-studio with a white screen. All of them have been like no audiences, no nothing. Anyway, John's sitting there, and he allows himself 30 seconds of personal whining for him. He's going to get it all out. Of course, after 30 seconds, he can't stop. But I just thought it wouldn't be fun, and probably down the road, kind of a fun thing to do. And if you have your video, turn your video on, because it would be fun to see everybody doing this, I think. Maybe not. But since we're all on mute, because we would get terrible feedback, and if you don't want to watch, just close your eyes. But if you have a camera, turn it on, because down the road, you might want to see yourself doing this. Is just complain out loud for 15 to 20 seconds about whatever it is you want to complain about, any routine at all that you've gotten messed with. And if you don't want to see yourself doing it on the screen, just close your eyes. And then watch it later and see what happens. But just complain about, like my favorite thing was yesterday I was in the park and everybody's keeping social distance. But guess what everybody was doing? They weren't touching each other, but they were petting each other's dogs. And I'm like, no. I mean, 100, they should put a sign on the poor dog saying, I may be carrying the virus, because at least 100 people in that park petted that dog. They wouldn't touch hands, but they're petting each other's dog. So anyway, whatever it is you've seen lately that's crazy, just complain about it for the next, I'm going to set the timer, because I could get carried away. Not that I would ever do that. And just allow yourself to complain out loud. And if there's people in the background you don't want them to hear, then just mouth it as if you're actually saying it. So let me find the timer. I'll set it for 20 seconds, and then I'll put myself on mute, and then just start complaining about whatever it is you want to complain about for 20.
Tim, we can't hear you.
Too late, Dave. Your time's up. You can't even whine now. So anyway, it's up there. It'll be on video if you want to see yourself complain down the road. And this is the way Jesus hears us whine. I mean, he doesn't hear anything we're saying. This is the way Jesus hears whatever it is we're crazy about. Because he knows that's not what we're crazy about. What we're crazy about is trying to keep him away. And now I got to invite him in to help me deal with my craziness. That's what we're actually afraid of. We're not afraid of these routines failing. We're afraid of keeping Jesus away. It's always that. It's only that. We're not aware of that, but that's what it's for. So, oh yeah, I should try to get stable now. Opening meditation, lesson 198. Lesson 198 in the workbook, and I can't find it. I thought I had a sticker in there. It's on page 379 in the workbook. And, you know, currently we're in the section in the workbook about grievances and how grievances are holding me back, how grievances are keeping miracles away, how grievances are blocking my own awareness of the light of Jesus inside of me. So this title certainly could, lesson 198's title is Only My Condemnation Injures Me. It could have easily said only my grievances injure me. Could have easily have said only my investment in my routines injures me. Not the routines don't injure me, but my investment in believing they will somehow bring me peace injures me, because it says I'm not a son of God, I'm not whole, you're separate from me, and I'm vulnerable to some kind of fiasco, disease, disaster. And that's what he's talking about through this whole thing in lesson 198. So I wanted to look at paragraph 4 and 5. I'll read that. We'll get quiet for a few moments, and I'll bring us out. Forgiveness is the only road that leads out of disaster, past all suffering, and finally away from death. How could there be another way when this one, forgiveness, is the plan of God himself? And why would you oppose it? Quarrel with it? Seek to find 1,000 ways in which it must be wrong, 1,000 other possibilities. Is it not wiser to be glad you hold the answer to your problems in your hand? Is it not more intelligent to thank the one who gives salvation and accept his gift with gratitude? And is it not a kindness to yourself to hear the Holy Spirit's voice and learn the simple lessons he would teach, instead of trying to dismiss his words and substitute your own in place of his? And we'll get quiet for a few moments. I'll bring us out.
And having you look what's in front of you, you know, and trying to say, hey, look what you're looking at, and try and understand that what your real peace, where your real peace comes from. And it's always that's what I like about the Course. It doesn't listening to you to death. It brings you to the understanding of taking the things of where you're really at and what you're doing now, and asking you what is it for, you know, bringing these good questions to ask, and understanding, bring you to the understanding of what you really are.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's even insulting for us as egos to because to ask Jesus, "What do I do?" and then he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, and it's normal to ask Jesus, what should you do? I mean, that's what Ellen did in that situation with the young lady. She was going to talk to the young lady. She asked Jesus what she should tell the young lady, and he said, "Don't ask me what to tell her. Don't ask me what you should do. Ask me to help you see her without judgment. And then whatever you say after that'll be fine. It won't, it'll be good." So yeah, so it's shifting from that total almost addiction we have to behaviorally doing something that might work or not, to moving to, this is of course about perception, not about behavior. And even
Right.
intellectually, just begin to get that much less.
It's sort of like,
Go ahead.
it's sort of like asking through our source, as you asking through the Holy Spirit, rather than you taking control of the wheel. And he makes that plainly evident. That we are not in control. And so when we do ask, we ask through our source, and that essentially is our way out of the dream.
Mm-hmm. And that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. But I lose it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I fluctuate between that all the time.
It's not like it fell out. It fell out. It's not like it fell out of my pocket. It's like I consciously. So somebody's trying to say something, and that's why I got feedback.
Oh.
Go ahead, Colleen.
I just wanted to add that I'm becoming more aware, especially spending a great amount of time alone, where I go first with my questions. I go right to my mind, right straight to my mind first. And been really thinking about that, knowing the first response is always wrong, knowing that the answer to the question is always going to be wrong. And it's like I'm reminding myself, where are you going to answer these questions, or to go for any kinds of information that's going to give you peace? Where are you going? And when I go to my mind, I have to remember that my mind is just an illusion of lies and deceptions and untruths, unless I ask the Holy Spirit first. Unless I give it over to the Holy Spirit first. So, I'm knowing that is, that I'm addicted to going to my mind and going there first as my first choice at looking at anything. And so it's like I need to remind myself of that continually. Where am I going? Who am I asking? And,
there's a short little lesson, 278-ish, I think, maybe 287, where Jesus says, ask the Holy Spirit what you should do, where you should go, who you should talk to, what should you say. But the answer to those questions from the ego's point of view is all about behavior. The answer to those questions, like Colleen was saying, from Jesus's point of view, where do you go? He'll tell you to go back to your mind, which is no geographical place. It's just kind of stepping internally and connecting with him. He'll tell you what to say, which is usually nothing. He might give you a little nudge, but usually it's not going to be anything at all. And what should you do? Well, what you should do is always go back to him and ask him how to see everybody involved in that situation the way he does. That's the only do to do is that, if there is a do at all, which isn't about behavior. Once again, it's all about perception. So, I mean, the answer to those questions is, you can answer them right away from an ego point of view, but from a Holy Spirit point of view is really different. Go ahead, Colleen.
Well, and I'm noticing that more and more as as I'm listening to the answers and my reactions to those, and my feelings and my reactions to those questions, knowing almost immediately that, you know what, wrong teacher, access the wrong place, need to, but it's becoming more automatic as I get that knot in my stomach, or I get those ideas whirling in my head, or the fear starts to create some story of some kind. It's like, yeah, you might want to ask again. You might want to choose again, Colleen, which teacher.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks. And it becomes like we should probably all have that across our foreheads. Uh-oh, wrong teacher. Uh-oh. I could add a VA. Uh-oh, wrong teacher. Just something wrong now. What did I do? Oh yeah, I forgot. I wanted to look at the only place in the course where he talks about routines per se. He actually uses the word one time. It's on page 40 in the manual. And if I'm right, it is in question 16, how should the teacher of God spend his day? And here, he's alluding to routines. He actually uses the word once. Let's see, let's try paragraph 2. So in the first paragraph, he's talking about advanced teachers of God, where you go real world and you stay there. You don't have to say anymore, uh-oh, wrong teacher, because you don't go back to the wrong teacher. So that's what an advanced teacher of God is. And then in paragraph 2 on page 40 in the manual, he says, but what about those of us, most of us, have not reached that kind of certainty yet? We haven't gone advanced teacher and stayed there. They are not yet ready for such a lack of structuring on their own part. What they must do to learn to get, what must they do? What must they do to learn to give the day to God? There are some general rules. There are some general routines for such lack of structuring on their own part. Oh, and there are some general rules, some general routines which do apply, although each one of them must use them as best as he can in his own way. Routines as such are dangerous, not because they're evil, but because we make them gods in their own right. And he means that very literally. We make them our source of salvation. We build our whole model of peace about our selfhood around whether those routines work or not, even with the course. That's why Ken was always, I think it's a good idea, but Ken was always against wearing a watch and letting it go off every 15 minutes when you were supposed to do the lesson. Because Ken's whole take was, Jesus wanted to see you how many times you forgot, quote unquote. But I always thought it was a good reminder. So, on a good ego day, I'll wear the watch. But they're all routines. Reading the book is a routine. I mean, it's you open it, there's words, you read them. But to make the course, even the book itself, a God in its own right, says this is my God, not something else. To make the routine a God in its own right, say this is where my source of salvation lies, not Jesus, not forgiveness. Remember, the ego's plan for forgiveness, or the ego's plan of salvation, is an active attack on God's plan. It's active, it's conscious, and then we quickly forget we did it and then blame it on somebody else. We've done switch plans from forgiveness back to the ego's plan of finding grievances, and we're often running, drawing lines in the sand, invested in routines, and double daring people to cross it. Sometimes triple daring, like in what was that Christmas movie? The kid in the parking lot, they're outside. He went right to the triple dare and convinced the kid to kiss the telephone pole when he got stuck to it with his lips. You remember that scene? It's a great scene for triple dares. So, I mean, that's what we're doing. Every time we get invested in a routine is we go right for the triple dare. They just skip first dare, second dare. We want them to go for broke. Cross this line, please. And of course they do. We set it up for them to cross the line, and they will. Let's see. Threatening the very goals for which they were set up. So here I draw this line in the sand and I say, don't cross it. Please don't cross it. You're going to mess with my peace of mind. And then, of course, I'm setting it up for my own peace of mind to be threatened. I'm saying this is going to rob me of my peace. And sure enough, when you cross the line, I'm sure it did. Nah, I already threw my peace out the window and I drew the line in the sand, and now I'm going to blame it on you. That's why if you don't cross the line, I'll go find somebody else to cross the line. Or I'll pretend you crossed the line when I wasn't watching. But I'll get mad about something, and I'll prove you're the bad guy in this situation. That's what routines are for, from the ego's point of view. They're not to make us feel good. They're to find people to blame for crossing that line. Broadly speaking, line 6, paragraph 2, broadly speaking, then, it can be said that as well to start the day right. That's what the rules of decision are all about. The rules of decision really are, there are no rules for decision. You just go to Jesus, you ask Jesus to help you see the other guy the way he does. I mean, if there's a rule, that's the only rule. And then, of course, we repeat that, we forget that. As soon as we go out the door, we think we forget it. We think we dropped it out of our pocket. But we're off and running. We switch minds again, and we just go, oops, I must have chosen the wrong teacher. I back up, and I re-choose for, a few seconds. Jesus, please help me see this the way you do. Jesus, please help me see this person standing in front of me the way you do. So that's the way we start the day right, planning to do that. And then when we screw up, all 7 rules of decision are about going back to that same simple request to ask Jesus, change up again, to let go of what we think is important and let him show us what is important. Meaning the innocence of my brother is still intact and my own innocence is still intact. Line 7, is always possible to begin again. Once again, the rules of decision. 6 of them are always about doing it again, and then doing it again, and then doing it again. It could have been 144 rules for decision, but they were all the same. Try it again. It is always possible to begin again should the day begin with an error, or halfway through the day there's an obvious error. Yet there are obvious advantages in terms of saving time if you start practicing this. Jesus knows we're invested in time. Jesus knows this little stick figure has a huge, time's at the top of this chart for a reason. It wasn't an accident. Time is so important to all of us. And he's saying, I know you're invested in time, and this will help you save time. He's kind of tricking us into doing this if you practice forgiveness. You don't have to wait to feel good. You can save time and feel good right away if you look at a grievance and you ask him to help you let it go. And that's all forgiveness is. But it's huge because it's not about forgiving the other guy for what he did. He didn't do anything. Forgiveness is about seeing the other guy the way Jesus does, meaning he's still innocent in spite of what he did or didn't do, and he's still okay. And he did not rob me of my peace. That's all in the first step of forgiveness. Second step of forgiveness is I back up to me and I go, oh my God, I must have thrown Jesus out the window, and now he's all busted up on the street, and look what I did. I mean, it's me taking responsibility for trying to push Jesus away. Trouble is, you can't get him out of the car. He's in the car. You can't throw him out. You can pretend you throw him out. He never goes anywhere. That's the problem with Jesus. From the ego's point of view, he's always here, present, right this second. And it just, we're always a heartbeat away from connecting with him if we're disconnected. And then the next breath, just say, Jesus. Just say Jesus. You don't even have to say help. Just bring Jesus back into your awareness. And things begin to change then. Thoughts, comments? Bruce, what you thinking? How's your day? Go ahead, Bruce. And then we'll go Colleen. Oh God, Bruce is having technical issues. Now the world's going to end for sure.
There you go.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Your points about time are right on. It seems like that's something, no matter how things are going or not going. That's always a big issue, and because we're so invested in thinking that we're creatures of time,
Yep.
and yet in eternity we're just fine. Always, ever, always, forever.
Kids on the playground.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thanks. Colleen.
I was just thinking, we were talking about Jesus being so close. In my memory, in my heart of hearts, to remember I am Jesus. That I am Jesus. And so it's like, how close can that be for me to just quiet down a moment and just reunite with that who I really am, and he, if I'm going to make them separate or kind of thing, but to remember that I am he. We are one. And so that's how close, if I can remember, that's how close it is. It's just my next breath, I'm there. So it's just a thought that came.
Yeah. And in some ways, I think that experience of Jesus' presence and really just feeling it, experiencing it, it's another way of, I think, describing the third step of forgiveness. So it's almost like the weird part is Jesus is the third step where I realize we are connected and we are the same. But to get to that, you have to ask Jesus for help in each of the first two steps to get to that experience of realizing, in a very palpable way that we're still connected with Jesus. So we take the grievance of the day, the resentment of the day, whatever, my walk in the park yesterday. Jesus wants me to see all the dog owners the way he does. He wants me to see the dogs are always innocent, but he wants me to see those guilty dog owners that were allowing everybody to pet their dog's head the way he does. Like, he still sees them as one innocent child of God. And am I willing to see them that way? And when I tried that, I actually tried that earlier because I realized I was holding on to something, and maybe, so I visualized these people I ran into yesterday and I saw them that way. And I realized there was this real sense of letting go of the grievance, admitting the grievance, letting it go, connecting with them in a warm way because they were just trying to have their dogs feel good. They weren't touching me, but they just wanted their dogs to feel good, for God's sake, for a few seconds, which is totally understandable. And there was no conscious malicious intent in that. And then it, that's step one. Just kind of have that awareness that I could see this person the way Jesus does, beyond whether they're doing something stupid or not, and see their real innocence. And then so I had that experience, and then of course that backing up from that, it was me choosing to see her as the not the dog killer, but the people killer using her dog. But that was my choice to see her that way. And she might even be doing that, but I don't have to see her as the killer. She's not. Her real reality is not killer, and my real reality is not killer either. Our real reality is not killer. It's always that. Speaking of killer, manual number 27, and it's on page 67. Question 27 is all about what is death. And paragraph 6, it seems like every paragraph lately is really addressing whatever condition we're in. Oh, that really applies to the virus. And then you read another paragraph. Oh, that really applies to the virus. Well, everything seems to be applying to not just the virus, but all this drama and excitement around it. So paragraph 6, I think, really does. Uses the word death, disaster, etc. So, and the last to overcome will be death. Of course, of course, the last to overcome will be death. Because death, like somebody was pointing out the other day, oh, it was Jane. We're not really afraid of running out of toilet paper. We're afraid we're going to die. I mean, that's what it is. And underneath that, so there's the being fear of losing the toilet paper. Then you have underneath that the fear of losing your life. And then underneath that, you have the fear of, I can't really lose my life because I'm not a thing that can lose my life. I mean, that's the real fear. That's the unacknowledged fear. So the idea of death, the belief in death, is the last to be overcome. Because every time I feel vulnerable, I insist I'm a thing that can die. The idea of death is the last to be overcome. When I connect with Jesus in that third step of forgiveness, death goes. There ain't no death. There ain't no experience of death in you or me. Even if we're physically dying, there's no experience of that. So with line 3, without the idea of death, there is no world. That's another reason not to let go of the idea of death. Not only is the virus going to go away, but the whole world as we know it's going to disappear, including me in that world. Wait, slow down, Jesus. Slow down here. I'm not ready to overcome the idea of death. I'll take it incrementally. All dreams end with this one, this overcoming of the idea of death, letting go of it, really. This is salvation's final goal, the end of all illusions. Because in death, all illusions were born. The tiny mad idea of separation was the tiny mad idea of death. I'm this thing, this connection with my father and myself is dead. Somehow I killed it. And now I'm off and running as a separate entity. So basically the idea of death originally, the tiny mad idea of separation or death is I killed who I truly am. One innocent son of God, always eternally connected with my father. That's what I think I killed. That's so over the top. We never admit that. That's why we had to project a world and make up all kinds of stuff to pretend that wasn't the problem. Because if we saw that was the problem, less than 80, we'd let it go once again in a heartbeat. But that's what he's trying to wake us up to, that process of waking up. Line 7, what can be born of death and still have life? He's talking about bodies. But what is born of God and still can die? The world was made as an attack on God, initially by the ego. Bodies were made as an attack on God. Bodies were made as a place where God could enter not. And not just a body. I mean, the body's just a poor puppet. It's me being invested in believing I'm a body that's the problem. So as soon as I start realizing I'm just, this stick figure is just a puppet of something internally going on in my mind, that whole investment begins to evaporate, believing I am this thing that can die, certainly as a body. Eventually, we got to get back to the ego internally, but we start with where we think we are. We think we're a body that can die. That's step 1 of forgiveness. Line 9, the inconsistencies, the compromises, and the rituals the world fosters in its vain attempts to cling to death. And he certainly could have said the inconsistencies, the compromises, and the routines the world fosters in its vain attempts to cling to death and yet to think love real are mindless magic. Our routines are mindless magic, meaning we've stepped outside of our mind. We kind of push Jesus away. We think we're something in the world, and we're making up routines that we believe are going to make us feel better. That's the mindless magic. We're not operating from the mind at that point at all. Well, we are, we just don't know it. We're operating from the ego point of view, but we're acting like we really believe we're bodies. That's just mindless magic. It's trying to solve the solution to a problem that's not even in the world. It's just a projection of the internal problem that I've dropped the hand of Jesus. I've chosen the tiny mad idea of death. And now I'm off and running with it. And I'm projecting that on the world and blaming you for it or somebody. Jane?
Ken always says that death isn't a problem really to overcome, because he says that it's just, again, our belief in separation. And when we turn to Jesus and walk with Jesus in that, the fear of death will be overcome.
Amazing process, I think, about letting go of a grievance and actually working the forgiveness process on whoever's pushing our buttons is you know, if we honestly do it and we honestly sit and wait with Jesus for that resentment to dissipate in that experience of seeing the person in our mind's eye the way he does, the fear that we were feeling about anything dissipates too. We begin to become aware that whatever fear I had, suddenly I stop thinking about it. I mean, sit quietly with Jesus and go through a forgiveness process with any grievance and watch how the fear is gone. I mean, it's just gone. You're not, and all the preoccupation with tangential issues is gone.
Well, I think that anytime we can see non-separation, so to speak, or whatever, when we're out in the world and we realize that what we see with our eyes isn't the truth, that it's only seeing through the vision of Christ that we're seeing reality or seeing eternality, so to speak. And it's just a very, very vigilant effort always to see that, to do that, and to remember that when I first see, I'm always seeing through the eyes of the ego, yet I have a choice to return and ask for the vision of Christ to see it.
And it's always that, like, hanging on to the grievance that is blocking that experience. What blocks my vision is that, yeah, I'll take vision, but I don't want to let go of my grievance. And then don't ever admit to myself that's what I'm doing. It's jumping steps. That's the way Ken used to put it. I mean, I can't go right from being afraid to having an experience of vision, because the only thing that's keeping me from having that experience of vision is a grievance that usually I'm not admitting I'm hanging on to as much as I am. Part of this process is really to get in touch with any grievance and how much I've got this death grip on it. And then watch myself, like Colleen was saying, watch my reaction when I go to Jesus for help. Maybe I don't want to let this go. That's a part of the waking up process, is to look at how bad I feel hanging on to the resentment, the grievance, no matter how justified I am, no matter how crazy they are or not out there. It's painful to hang on to that, and it's not hurting, it's hurting me. That's only a grievance can hurt me. Only my own condemnation of other people and myself hurts me, not what they're doing. Lesson 178, only my condemnation hurts me, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's always that, it's only that. And to have that experience of vision, I have to be willing to accept that as a possibility. Maybe I am holding on to a grievance, and maybe if I work on it, I might feel better. I won't be afraid. I won't think about death. I'll have an experience with Jesus. I'll have an experience of vision. I mean, the offering is really good here. You just have to be willing to find a grievance. And it's not real hard. I mean, hate has a target. He says that a lot. I think in 161. Hate has specifics. You'll find your grievance right away. You don't have to dig too deep. One of those lessons he goes, think about somebody you're having a problem with. He goes, oh, you already thought of them. You don't have to dig for that person. You've already got them in your mind. You don't have to go far for grievance, because that's what we're hanging on to keep vision away.
But I also think that we have to constantly remember that we can't undo that grievance without looking at it with Jesus.
That we can't. Right.
Yeah.
That's a huge point. That's a huge point. Go ahead, Colleen.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, I must not unmuted. Sorry.
Oh.
Nothing deep. Nothing deep.
Oh, darn. You've had some great winners today, Colleen. I love that oops thing. I just put oops up here. I'll know what it's for. So let's see. Oh God, it's 1 o'clock. Wanted just to talk a little bit about yesterday's lesson? God. I am under no laws but God's. Now, there's not a lot of laws of God. I mean, one way of looking at it is there's only one law of God. There's only one of us. The one law of God is forgiveness, period. The one plan of God is forgiveness. That's in all of its 1,300 pages. That's how simple it is. there's only one law of God, but I am under no other laws. And we could easily put in there, I am under no other routines except God's routine. Meaning my salvation and my sense of self and who I truly am, and my being okay with who you are as one innocent son of God, and me being okay with myself as one innocent son of God, that's always where I want to go back to. That's the routine. And any other routine I'm hanging on to is, once again, a line in the sand where I'm setting up a scenario for a grievance. I have to have grievances in order not to have vision. I have to have grievances in order not to have an experience of Jesus. I have to. And worse, I have to admit that's not what I'm doing. Once I say that out loud, of course, man, that's really stupid. What is? Stupid is as stupid does. But I have to admit that maybe that's what's going on. And like Jane was saying, I need help to do this. I can't just say I let go of this grievance. I need this, because I already got it. I'm already trapped in the box. I need to like raise a hand up, and however Jesus metaphorically is going to pull me up out of that box into an overlook where I'm looking down on you and me the way he does. He uses the word overlook a lot. And it doesn't mean ignore what you're seeing and then make up something else. Overlook always means rise above it with you, with him, and have a different experience of your brother and yourself. Overlook, rise up, overlook in the mountains kind of thing. So I am under no routines, really. My investment, my peace of mind is not under any laws I've made about my routines. I am under no laws of my own that I've made about my own routines. What's going to give me peace and what isn't? This is just, I mean, this is just a global, a global opportunity to pray like hell. not to have anything change behaviorally, but to see I really am not upset for the reason I think. To really have that experience of something else, to be able to move into that experience of vision. Jane was talking about that connection with Jesus that Colleen was talking about. I mean, that's really nice. And it just takes us above all this drama, which was set up to keep us so preoccupied with it, tangential drama, that I wouldn't do the overlook thing. So let's overlook. I'm in lesson 77. The lesson for today is a closing meditation. And we're on page 138 in the workbook. And I'm going to do paragraph 7 and paragraph 8, I think. Yeah, page 138 in the workbook, paragraph 7, paragraph 8. You can read along if you want, or just get quiet and listen. Tell yourself often today, I am entitled to miracles. Ask for them whenever a situation arises in which they are called for. You will recognize these situations. And since you are not relying on yourself to find the miracle, you are fully entitled to receive it whenever you ask. Remember also not to be satisfied with less than the perfect answer. Be quick to tell yourself, should you be tempted, I will not trade miracles for these grievances. I want only what belongs to me. God has established miracles as my right. I am entitled to miracles. We'll get quiet for a few moments. And gently stay here. You can't go anywhere anyway. You might as well stay here. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you.